How's it going? Welcome back to another one of these live film breakdown sessions, hopefully with a little bit better production than last time. I am Ben, as always. I am joined by TikTok star Pablo Escoball, whose government name will remain anonymous per his own wishes. I enjoy his basketball and certain other non-basketball TikToks that I'm not going to mention explicitly for monetization reasons, but you should go check him out. I'll have him linked in the description. How's it going?
Patriotism, I would call it. It's going great. I have you guys are seeing me in 1080p HD.
Yeah,
I
your
bought a
camera looks
new
better than
new
mine. Yeah,
webcam.
yeah, yours look than my crappy built-in laptop webcam.
I see. I would be using that, but mine just broke out of nowhere on me. So I had to drop $70 at the Best Buy. I also dropped $20 on a different adapter for headphones. I asked someone, "Will this do what I want it to do?" They told me yes. I came home, it didn't do it, and I
That's
don't
so
have the
unfortunate.
confidence to go back and return it. So I'm just out $20.
That's hilarious. That's unfortunate though. All right, let's get into it. We're gonna talk Trae Young as per Pablo's request, and I think it's gonna be a really interesting topic. As we do, we bring people on and talk about the things they want to talk about. Specifically, we're gonna talk about Trae Young in the playoffs this year, as it's always a contentious topic. Whether or not Trae Young is good, whether or not he can work in the playoffs. So we're gonna break that down and hopefully come away with an answer. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I have come away feeling pretty positive about this. What do you think?
Oh, okay.
What do you like? Are you a Trey guy? What do you think about generally this whole thing?
I am a die-hard Trae guy. So the first draft I ever really followed was 2018, and so like I didn't even know anything back then, but he
That was
was
also the
like
same.
I
Yeah, same for me.
yeah, and but just watching him at Oklahoma, I was like, this is an unbelievable player. Like, do you think is he the most complete guard prospect you've seen since you've started doing this? For me, I feel
I
like he
mean,
is,
I've
or
gone
he
back and
was.
watched a ton of old guys, so but he's certainly up there. I have a series on this YouTube channel actually where I have been ranking
Mm.
the top 25 prospects of the decade, which I have not finished and I want to finish at some point. But Trey is in there. I think I've already had him in there. He's in like the top somewhere between 15 and 10. So yeah, he was a fantastic prospect. He was freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's so nuts. He checked every box like you could possibly want, except defense and height. So I was all in on him, I'm watching him at Oklahoma, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then everyone else is like, this guy sucks. He's so overhyped. He's the next Trey Burke or whatever. And then so I took it
Trey
personally, and
Burke was
then
sick in
um,
college, to be fair.
yeah, and then also what happened was they make me pit girls against girls with the Trey Luca stuff. I love Luca also, but then by year two in the NBA, Trey Young is averaging 28 and 9 and like on okay efficiency, and I'm like, people don't do this in year two. Why are we not freaking out about this guy? Why are we not celebrating this? And Luca's doing the same exact thing, just like a little better. And everyone's like, Luca's the future of this league, and Trey is hot garbage. And like literally everybody thought Trey Young was bad. I have like core memories associated with this. This space could be used so much better. But I remember listening to like a Zach Lowe, Kevin Arnovitz podcast, and they were talking about like how much they don't like Trey Young, and they're talking about like how they think he's a ball hog or whatever. And Zach Lowe was like, yeah, I know he's at the top of the league in assists, but it just doesn't feel like it. And I went to check the hockey assist stats, and he's at the top of that too.
Yeah,
And I'm
he
like, oh
always
my
ranks at the top of
god,
like potential assist points created, like points created in general. But I agree with
yeah,
you generally. I am pro Trey, but without any more rambling, let's hop into the film and
yeah.
break
Well,
down
and
some Trey Young.
I should say I was all in, and then the Miami series happened, and I'm like, okay, we are in trouble now. And then this series happened, and I'm like, okay, we're not as in trouble, but I want to do this right now to know how much trouble we're in.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I would say the Hawks as a whole are probably in a decent amount of trouble, but I don't think that's all Trae Young, and we'll get into it. But what's undeniable is that I don't want that volume. Is that the scoring efficiency from basically everywhere on the floor, except for his long jumpers, diminishes a ton. At least in this last playoffs, where he struggles I mean, he always has struggled with like elite defenders, and in the playoffs, like he was matched up with Derek White this entire series, and he like I think overall he did a good job. Like this was just a really fun matchup, but especially when Trae kind of panicked and went too early, White just owned him. And, like I think there was a lot of like weirdness in Trae's playoffs. There kind of has been. There are shots like this where it's just like you kind of have to make that. Like that's as open as
Yeah.
you're gonna get, and you expect Trey to make that. He makes that shot in the regular season at a good clip, but I think he can get kind of like panicky almost. Like he kind of knows that he's his team's only real chance, and he takes some shots and picks up his dribble earlier than I think he should. Like a play like this, I think Trey could take two more dribbles, probe, and probably kick to a wide open three here. But he like takes a off foot scoop layup, which to be fair is like a shot he can and does make, but against a bunch of high level defenders, that just becomes a lot more difficult. I think, which is definitely interesting trying to see. And I think the foul grifting just doesn't work as much in the playoffs. Like it still definitely works
Yeah.
to an extent. Like he draws fouls, but it's just like stuff like this where he's like fully like leaning his shoulder trying to get a call, especially against a smart defender like Derek White, is just like not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah, the thing with him is he puts himself on hard mode. Like he turns his difficulty up to Hall of Fame
Yeah,
difficulty.
look at that
And I'm
shot.
just my yeah, man. My whole thing with him is like I just desperately want him to play off ball more because I feel like his skill level is so high. He could be a great off the catch shooter. He could make things so much easier on himself if he just moved off the ball, and it would make
Yep.
other
And we
players
are
on that
going to
team
get
more
into this in more
useful.
depth later, but I absolutely agree with you. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, no problem. He's just it's just like yeah,
I totally agree with
he
the hard mode thing, though. Yeah.
yeah, he and I worry because it worked in 2021. Like he was just making all of these shots, and so I think in his mind he's like any shot is a good shot for me now, but it's like it doesn't have to be, Trey. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
But yeah, the finishing is tough when it's Eric White, man. That's he's
Yeah.
so
I mean, yeah.
good.
I mean, Derek White's, I think, was the best defensive guard in the league last year. It was him or Caruso, who was
Mhm.
also just ridiculous.
Mhm.
But, like, you don't have to take a lefty floater from the free throw line. Like, you take another dribble, Capella is ceiling, and you get there. And we'll literally look at the very next play where Trey holds his dribble and ends up getting a much better shot. This is it's weird to say like Trey in year 5 or 6 or whatever needs an approach change, but he needs an approach change. Like which I think
Mhm.
is like concerning, but also like that feels fixable. And maybe in year 2 of the Quinn Snyder offense, we'll get some of that. But when we see him like pace right here, he puts White in jail and he's waiting for his roll man. He's hiding the ball here, and he gets to a spot where he can take a little 2 foot floater, and that's a much better shot than like the rolling, sliding, flipping floaters that he he took. And I think as the series went down, the Hawks did like had a more concerted effort to get Trey switched on to bigs, especially Horford, and that really worked. Like Horford in space cannot guard Trey, and I just wish there was more of that. Like more plays where Trey just made it look insanely easy because he can do that,
Mhm.
especially on a play like this where it's another one where like he's totally blanketed by Derek White, and instead of pulling up for a weird floater, he takes another dribble, hard 1-2 stop, gets him flying backwards, and hits another easy floater. So it's like all the more frustrating, as you were saying, because he clearly can do it. It's like he can make these shots, and I think some of it is always just going to
Mhm.
come down to like how many floaters like this can he hit, because regardless, these are just like the shots that he has to make. Like he just has to. But
Mhm.
but like he certainly can do it, which is yeah, again, why it's so frustrating. Like he can do it. He just doesn't always do it. And even sometimes when he can blow by Derek White fully and it just doesn't work. It's weird.
Yeah, and I think he's very much a momentum player. Like when he makes shots early, I feel like then the whole rest of his game, he's just more confident in everything and he makes better shots. But then when he misses early, it feels like like you pointed out earlier, he's like picking up his dribble earlier. It feels like he's feeling the pressure. And so yeah,
Yeah.
this hard diet of shots, man. It's not doing wonders for him. But
No.
that's so crazy that he could still do that stuff, like just cross up Derek White and get all the way to the rim. His burst is underrated.
It's
Like he
really
was never a
good.
poor athlete or
It was
anything.
always
Like
really good,
at
absolutely.
yeah, like at Oklahoma, I feel like he beat his man off the dribble every single time. And like even against like prime Ben Simmons, I feel like he was beating him off the dribble. And
Yeah.
so he's it's the talent is definitely there. It's just all these he's making it harder.
I think Trae is certainly making it harder for himself, but as you alluded to earlier, I think the offense that he plays in makes it harder too. Um, I think DeJounte is kind of a problem. Like I
Yeah,
do,
I was not into that trade when it
no,
first
I
happened.
wasn't either, and I think I would be more in if he played defense like the DeJounte of 3 years ago, but he just doesn't anymore. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think this pairing works at all, and at least not in the current way it's been applied. There's just so much your turn, my turn offense where like it's DeJounte dribbling an ISO or pick and roll and Trae spotting up from the hash mark. And like that's just not the greatest offense, especially in the playoffs. That's not what you want. Or stuff like this where I actually think this clip is was not supposed to be worded. That's just a really nice play. But and we'll get some more of
Woo, we
the
we like it anyway.
and we'll get some more of that good stuff again. But the Hawks just don't have the secondary creation that they need to sustain Trae. Like it was really easy for Boston, especially in the early games when, like you said, Trae didn't have it scoring wise. He finished out the series like quite hot as a scorer, like multiple 30-point games
Mm.
on better efficiency. But DeJounte, like Trae, is not someone who wants to play off the ball. And when your options for secondary closeout attacking are Sadiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, rookie AJ Griffin,
Ugh.
second year Jalen Johnson, like you're gonna get a lot of record scratches like this where the Celtics are totally fine, or whatever playoff team is totally fine. Just get the ball out of Trae's hands however we can and make someone else win. And that's
Yeah.
just too effective of a strategy against this current Hawks team. And as much as it's like I wish Trae would play off ball more, like again, plays like this where it's like just a side pick and roll with DeJounte into a mid range pull. Like why not have Trae do something off the ball or have some action here? Because when they in the rare times they actually involve DeJounte and Trae in the same action, which I didn't like chart this, but I went back and watched all of the games for this, and I think they had like like these kind of DeJounte Trae offense action plays like 10 times over the whole series or something like that, and we're gonna see basically all of them. Stuff like this, where I think this is the only one that actually didn't work, where just a simple like horn set into a dribble handoff where we get Trae and Derek White just destroys this play all by himself. I feel like this is one of those plays where it's more um, like tip your cap to the guy who blows up Clint Capella, and
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do against the best guard defender in the league. But I like the process on a play like that, and we're gonna see more of this. I think this is the same clip that I skipped over, but yeah, it is. Some of my favorite things that the Hawks do is like it's it's kind of like just when they run four verticals, like send your tall players at the rim and have Trae throw it in this area, kinda. Um,
Yeah, this is like a volleyball play where it's like you're just everyone jumps and you just figure out who to set it to. I
right.
love
It's
this kind
like
of
it's
stuff.
like it's like pick and roll with hard cutter. Like usually isn't good because the spacing is bad. But when you have like bouncy guys and Trae Young, this kind
Mm.
of offense where you just send guys at the rim and then Trae figures it out was really effective in this series and is always really effective for the Hawks. Again, we see another variation of the run to the rim offense where this is just a really smart cut by Collins, and Brogdon's not the greatest off-ball defender, but just sending these go routes at the rim and having Trae throw it up. This kind of offense was especially good when Rob Williams was off the floor because Al is just not it as a rim protector anymore.
Mm.
But it's stuff like this where
So
obviously that was
nasty, man. I
nasty,
love it.
but like we see them actually running pre pick and roll motion. Like what a crazy concept. And
Yeah, like maybe you don't have to beat everyone off the dribble yourself every time at half court.
exactly.
Maybe involve everyone else and
And
get some momentum into the ball.
I'm hopeful Quinn Snyder does more of this because he's been good about this in the at his past coaching stints where again, we just get a screen to get Derek White off of Trae Young. That was really just getting Derek White off of Trae Young resulted in good
Mhm.
offense. Now you have Trae moving with momentum, and Trae downhill with momentum is just he's just gonna do crazy shit like that. That's just what
Yeah.
that's just what Trae does. And here's another like Trae DeJounte play that ended up working where you have DeJounte and Trae in the same action. Like, why don't you use your two best ball handlers in the same action more? Start Trae as a screener, and again, rub Derek White off him, get Trae a little advantage, and then he can run the side pick and roll and hit a little floater over Al Horford. But this is the kind of stuff that worked, and I don't know why they didn't do more of this. Like
Yeah. I
maybe
I feel like I feel like there's an issue where like so the team putting this pairing together, the Trae Young DeJounte Murray pairing, I feel like they took like a super simplistic, stupid view where they were like, well, Trae Young can't play defense. What if we got him a backcourt partner who could play defense? Remember, DeJounte Murray, second team all defense, and that's like as far as they thought it through. And then I feel like Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, they run this offense like they're James Harden and Chris Paul in Houston. They're like, yeah, we're just in our separate zones. We can do
which
everything.
which that kind of offense works when you have James Harden and Chris Paul. But when you
Yeah,
have James
DeJounte,
Harden
yeah,
and when you have James Harden and Eric Gordon, it's a little less effective. Like
yeah, they need to realize like Dejounte this is closer to like a Steph Draymond relationship where like DeJounte would be the Draymond and Trey would have to move off ball like Steph. Like that's the pairing you got to get closer to
I really
instead of
yeah.
the Harden Chris Paul.
I think obviously like we all wish Trey was a more willing off-ball mover. That's been the thing with him
Hmm.
forever. But I also you can say the exact same thing about DeJounte. And this season does have me wonder if it's like a coaching thing, but also probably not because the Hawks have had 3 or 4 different coaches in Trey's career, and it's been the same thing. But it just didn't seem like DeJounte is pretty solid as like a floor raiser. Like he can run some pick and rolls. He'll get his 20 a night shooting mid-range pull-ups and such with solid
Yeah.
enough defense, but on a team where you have one of the best lead ball handlers in the NBA, that's just not moving the needle so much. When you have a guy, especially because DeJounte's a good, not like he's a good shooter, but he's not incredible. Like he's not a super weapon off the catch. He can definitely punish defenses for leaving him open, but he's not like a crazy deadly shooter. And even then, like we see Trae make this work. Another example of just Trae being patient. Patience is so key for him, and his handle is so good that it's just really
Yeah.
difficult to challenge, and he can get to wherever he wants on the floor. And even against an elite defense like Boston's, players will eventually make mistakes. It's like it's like if you let a quarterback run free in the pocket without sack, for 10 seconds against the best secondary of all time, he's going to find someone open. Like Jason sleeps, Sadiq cuts to the wing. This is the kind of stuff that Trae makes possible because of his handling and his vision and works outside of the structure of an offense. And of course, that segues into his passing, which, I mean, his passing was phenomenal in this series. Like, it always is. That's never an issue. It just wasn't really
Mhm.
enough. I also really want to shout out, I think this might be my favorite action they ran all series because they actually used these two together in a meaningful way where you actually have like they're running Spain pick and roll here. Like a Trae Young offense running Spain pick and roll is like I don't know. It's pretty
It's like peanut
ridiculous.
butter and jelly.
Yeah, it's like peanut butter and jelly if nobody ever thought to try those two together and then they did it and then they were like, "Wait, this is really good." So it was like peanut
Yeah,
butter
it's
and
like
jelly the
like
first
that.
time.
That there's like a Family Guy scene where there's a car crash between two guys. One guy had peanut butter, one guy had chocolate, and they crashed into each other and collided. And that was like the invention of peanut butter and chocolate. And they were like, "Oh my
Yes,
god,
I'm
this
familiar
is
with
the
the
worst."
scene. And yeah, like
Yeah,
look how good it looks when they actually involve these two in an action. DeJounte occupies a bunch of this weak side defense. gives Trae a really easy read here. It's just this is the conflict defender. It's are you gonna like wait and hit the rim or are you gonna hit it out? And Jason makes this read really easy for him. But look how easy it can be when you run the offense
Yeah.
for him. Like obviously Trae can do it all himself as we've seen and as we continue to
Hmm.
see, but it's just like he doesn't have to. Like this play
Yeah,
is so good.
these passing gods like Trae Young and like LaMelo and whatever, when it gets to scrambling defense situations, it's like
Yeah.
they're unstoppable.
And if you're not like I mean like again like the big difference with like Luca is that he's actually big enough and enough of an interior scoring threat to make this kind of not matter. Like he doesn't need the manufacturing as much as Luca as much as Trae does,
Yeah.
which is not saying much. But like again, I think like Trae was really good in this series overall. He obviously has his issues, but like I don't forget about this shot where he carried the Hawks back in this game, and even when he's not hitting threes at a clip that he'd like, the spacing and like the threat of his jumper is always going to be good because Trae will pull with his heels on the logo and make shots, and defenses will remember that regardless of whether or not they're coached to. They will remember that. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you feel about that shot because I know there's different schools of thought. Like at this point, I don't know how high his percentage on these actually is, and so I know there are some people who are like he needs to cut out these shots, but then like you and others, they're like he needs to keep doing it to keep that fear in because if he has to get picked up at half court or if they have to like trap him on the ball and he gets to just kick it to a short roller and then they have like Jalen Johnson and Okongwu and all these guys. Like if it gets to that situation, like I don't know how you stop this offense,
yeah,
but then
exactly.
you gotta live with the bad misses also.
I
It's
think
like hard
I mean,
balance.
I mean, he could probably cut down some of these shots, especially in games where things just aren't working and he's trying to make anything happen. But some of these I think are good because it's who he is. It's who he's always been. And
Hmm.
I mean, that's the thing with these deep shots. Like, you're trading being wide open for the shot just being harder. Like,
Hmm.
like, you have to remember, people, like, all of these, or most of these really deep shots are wide open. And Trae Young
Yeah.
is an NBA player, and NBA players tend to make open shots.
Yeah.
Obviously, it becomes much harder because of the distance, but so many of the shots are wide open. And like you say, they do pull the defense really high. Like Trae is walking the ball up, and his toes are inside the logo, and Derek White is guarding him closely, because he has to. And I mean, he gets shook in this play because sometimes Trae just does that. But I think the really deep pull ups, while they probably could be reined in, and I think they work better, like I said, on an offense with more offensive threats. I think, funny enough, the Hawks really miss Kevin Herter. They really missed him in this
Yeah.
series. Having another guy who could dribble and shoot and pass and was willing and good playing off ball, I think that was a huge loss for them. That is kind of insane that they just like kind of dumped him for money reasons. But I digress, anyways. Um,
And was Bogdanovich hurt in this series? I forget
I
what
think he
what
was
was up with him.
he had some good games, but I think he was dealing with injuries in the playoffs, right? I don't remember exactly.
I think that was the case, but yeah, he's pretty good at that too. But I've always felt like they kind of underutilize him a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's probably fair as well, as we can see in a play like this, where another action I like that was more of just like Trae doing his thing, where they have like an early offense slip to get Bogdanovich, and then they set up into a horns flare that ends up just being I'm gonna take this wide open 40 footer because I can. Um, but yeah, I think it's a trade off that's worth it overall, and this has been constant in all of the clips that we've seen. I think I actually showed this clip earlier, but I wanted to bring it back because hopefully now we can look at this with a new lens. Like, look how high up Derek White's guarding Trae Young. Like,
Hey, we could just watch this for another hour. I'm okay just with this single play.
I
This is
mean,
great.
how many ball handlers in the league like consistently are guarded like this? I don't think
It's
it's
not.
that. It's not a big list, and when Trae, again, like in a play like that, he puts it together with the patience, the handle, the getting closer to the rim. It looks really, really good. And I think this is the section where we just
That play is
watch.
so crazy.
This is the
Yeah,
section
because
where
he
we just
like
watch
just
a bunch of his
creates that out
passes.
of nothing.
And this is what Trae does for you. Um, Funnily enough, I think Sam Hauser actually gave Trae like quite a bit of trouble in this series. Um,
Really?
I mean, just because he was the tallest guy who was like even kind of consistently guarding him. Um, but again, like Trae is able to create stuff like this with his just brilliance, even when the plays break down. And I think there was enough of this in the series where again, I think Trae certainly like went down from his regular season performance, and this regular season efficiency and scoring wise was even a little bit down from the last couple years. But still,
Yeah, it was an off year.
I mean, it's hard to understate how much this Hawks team, for better or worse, just relies on him, or how hard he carries. And it's definitely too hard. But he does stuff like this where um I just wish he was more like, this is another example of just don't pick up your dribble so early, which is a habit of Trey's that is again not my favorite, especially this late into his career. But when he
How
look how good it is
Oh
when
yeah,
he
that one is
look how
so
good it is when he keeps
crazy
his dribble.
too.
What were you saying?
He had me tricked on that play. He had Marcus Smart tricked on that play. That play is so
That
crazy. I
play's
don't know how
awesome.
he got that off. But what's it called? How do you feel about his passing and scoring balance? Do you think it's okay now and he just needs to make more shots, or would you like to see him less shooting, more distributing?
That's an interesting question, and I don't really know. I honestly think it like he does a good job of taking what the like. I think for me the question is like a balance of like taking what the defense gives you versus just doing whatever you want because you're Trey. Um,
Hmm.
but I generally think the balance is fine. I think passing more is never really a bad option, especially with someone who threatens a defense vertically as much as Trey Young does. But I mean, at some point, especially with the Hawks team, like we talked about, that doesn't have a ton of really high level offensive threats outside of Trey, I think it's probably fine at this point. But again, look at him keep his dribble alive in the double team. This is so crazy. I have no idea how he did this. I have no idea. Like it looks like Hunter is moving towards the perimeter when he throws this ball.
And so they have his face covered with their arms, so we can't really see it. But he must have like. Do you think he's like staring down Dejounte? Like, why did Marcus Smart where did Marcus Smart think he was going? Where do you think he was
Yeah,
passing to?
he must have thought that he was going this way. Like there's no way. I mean, I guess to be fair, like no reasonable player would do this pass. And I think Trey passes
It's like,
into
oh, he's 6'1". No way he gets that through.
Trey passes into space better than most players ever, I think. And honestly, I think there's part of Trey's process, either consciously or unconsciously, where it's like, this is the gap on the floor. I'm gonna get the ball here, and I'm gonna trust my guy to get it there. Like he really is like,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
like throws him into
yeah, he
it.
throws. Yeah, it's like he throws guys open. Like it really is the quarterbacking analogy, which we're just gonna keep doing. But it really is marvelous what he can create. And I think this was a foul that, oh, this was an obvious foul that didn't get called. But the kind of stuff that Trey can do with the way, like the quality of scorer he is, again, beats Smart off the dribble in a straight line. I think Smart has took a little step back on defense last year. Like he's still really great, but he's not like all D first team level anymore. But still, Trey beats him off the dribble. Everyone in the gym thinks this is a floater until Marcus Smart just like hip checks a Kongwu in. But point being, it's like Trey's ability to like audible and make those kind of decisions on the fly is obviously what makes him special. And I think like that happens enough against these high level defenses where, especially like every high level defense is going to have gaps. Um, this is it really is like they say defense is your defense can only be as good as your weakest link. And while that, there's certainly not like fully true on plays like this where it doesn't matter if Al or if Smart is honing the tag, if Horford is moving well, if your weak side guy is just not rotating, you're going to get punished. And of course, Trae makes life very hard for any weak side defender because you have absolutely no idea what he's doing until after he does it. After he does
Yeah,
it. It's been a long day.
after he does it.
Until after he does the
Yeah,
play, you know?
it's impossible to tell whether that's a floater or a lob. It's nuts.
It is nuts. And when he plays with patience, of course, the passing works much better as well. It is really great to see the extent to which he works and plays with patience. Here is again an example where he does not play with as much patience. Why are
Yeah,
you picking up the ball here?
I'd probably like to see him shoot that out to the corner to Hunter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That could have been a good read, or even yeah. But the thing is, like, if you're Trae and you don't see this yet, take another two dribbles. It's not gonna
Hmm.
go away. I also think this is like I really wanted this to be just like a hard slip from DeJounte. I really wanted it to be a hard slip from DeJounte. Like I love like early offense guard slips. Like the Pelicans run it a
Hmm.
lot. They've always had the OKC run it a lot this year. Magic have run it a lot the last couple years. But come on, just get DeJounte like firing downhill, trail slip it, and that's an easy layup. I do like what I think they were going for here. Like maybe it the idea if Trae doesn't win hard to the rim is for DeJounte to like curl back into like a twirl veer action.
Oh, no,
But
and then he would get it
right,
coming
it's like
downhill.
Villanova ran it
Okay.
for Jalen Brunson a lot. It's an
Mm.
action I like a lot, like this like snapback screen, but it doesn't look like DeJounte or Capella were running hard at all for that, so I'm skeptical of whether or not that conclusion is actually accurate. But point being, I think
But yeah, but then there's the element where like even if that is the play, they might be thinking, well, he might not pass this time. He's on a
right,
scoring run,
right,
so
and this
maybe
is
we're
I
not
think
we're not gonna go as hard.
a perfect summation of the fact that the problem is Trae and it is the offense and it is the players around him. Um, but this is all stuff that feels fixable to me. And maybe that's just naive because it's been so long and like a lot of the problems are the same. And I think Play's Trae off volleys are probably like he was really good in that first playoff series and he led them really far. And I think like that shouldn't be totally discounted in favor of total that shouldn't be totally forgotten because it does matter in like the whole scope of his playoff ability. But it's low hanging fruit plays like this when there are multiple different ways that they could have made a little tweak, whether that's DeJounte rolling hard, Trae taking an extra dribble, passing it to Hunter. That would have turned this into an easy shot, and those margins are what matter in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like people have almost decided that that 2021 playoff run, they're like, that's not canon. That was filler. Only the struggles are canon. But yeah, it's like we keep saying, he makes things hard on himself. So other people are gonna pick at it. But another question I have for you is how. So we're talking about the roster and like it's kind of offensively challenged. I wonder how much of that and I don't know which way I lean with this. Do you think they kind of have to build a roster like that to compensate for his defensive deficiencies, and that's naturally going to lead to having less offensively talented players? Or do you think they should just be like, hey, let's get guys who could do stuff on offense, and that'll be so explosive, like the Kings type offense, that'll be so explosive that it'll work out in our favor either way.
Yeah, I think early in his career, especially, that was certainly the case. Like picking a guy like DeAndre Hunter in the top four, who funnily enough is like not nearly the defender people thought he was, and is probably a better offensive player.
Yeah.
Um, like especially like Onyeka, who I love. He's fantastic. Jalen
Mhm.
Johnson, who's great. But yeah, I think they're kind of rectifying that as they understand, which is a perfect segue into the very end. That Trae, I think, has made the notable leap from horrendous to just good old regular bad on defense. Um, where it like obviously he's always gonna get switched on like in the playoffs. He's never gonna be perfect with his effort, but he has made very genuine improvements this year, and I think that matters, especially in the context of what you're talking about in terms of team building. Like, he's really crafty, using his hands to get steals and blocks, kind of in the ways that people always thought he could be, like using his smarts, his speed,
Hmm.
his instincts to make plays. And when he puts in the effort, like, Trae makes high level defensive plays at times. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, why can't he read the floor on defense like he can on offense? Well, the answer is, of course, he can. It's different, but
Yeah,
like
it's
he's
like
not
there's no
given.
way the brain just totally shuts off for
No,
somebody like
right.
him.
And this is a like perfect read here, dives on that. But I think I think Trae is always going to be a weakness on defense, but I definitely think it's time to start adding more offensive pieces, and I think the Hawks know that. With us, like I think they've had a couple like really great drafts in a row. AJ Griffin is going to be great.
Who did they get this year?
Buffkin,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, who I don't like. I wasn't a huge Kobe Buffkin guy, but I thought where they drafted him was pretty fair value, and I think he is a really good fit as just a player who is very willing to play off ball. Like, that is absolutely where he's best. Like, my Buffkin concerns largely came with like the value of a guy without real like pull up shot making, shooting, on ball stuff that high. But his off ball game is fantastic. And in an offense where like I think he could fill he like a combination of Buffkin and AJ Griffin, I think could fill some of the Kevin Herter void, and hopefully more as AJ continues to develop. And I think he's going to have a lot more on ball juice in the future. He's just going to get really good, I think, but which is obviously going to be
Yeah, just
huge.
hopefully the rapture doesn't happen and take him away before we get there.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't spend too much time with Jonathan Isaac. But point being, I think AJ Griffin is like kind of a missing piece here, where he is someone who I think was bad on defense his rookie year, but I think could be fine eventually. And is just going to be such an amazing offensive player. Like, he's the kind of large wing scorer that the Hawks have not had in the Trae Young era. Like, I guess Herter is probably the closest guy to that, but I don't even think he's that close to that as always like a pure off ball guy. And I think Buffkin could, like I said,
Hmm.
Buffkin could fill some of that role. AJ Griffin could fill some of that role, hopefully. I definitely don't think Sadiq Bey is right for that role. Jalen Johnson is a great off ball player already. I just think like the shot continuing to get better with him is going to be important. But I definitely think they need to and are going more offensive because, wrapping
Hmm.
around this whole giant tangent, that I think Trae really is solid on defense now. Like, not solid, I shouldn't say.
Oh, you would. I was
No,
gonna say
no,
you go solid.
no, solid by his own standards, I guess. Like I said,
Yeah.
like I want to reiterate, like, he is still a below average defender. Like, the Hawks are losing defensive possessions with him on the floor. But obviously, the
Yeah.
argument has always been that that's way offset by how much offensive value it gives you, and that's still true, but to an even greater extent, I think now, because like he's just trying harder and he's making smarter plays, and it's still bad, but it's workable. And the difference between
It's not cataclysmic.
right, and I think the difference between that and just regular bad is really important, especially in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Like the same way that being just like an average or below average offensive player versus being like a horrible one is, I think people like are very aware of that being a huge thing that you just cannot have happen in the playoffs. But
Mhm.
I think Trey
And
I think Trey can do that. So
how do you feel about Buffkin's defense? Do you think like uh could he get to a similar like could he fill the DeJounte Murray like defensive void that they were expecting? Like
I th-
be the kind of defensive
possibly,
player that
yeah.
earlier career
I
DeJounte
wasn't
was.
crazy about Buffkin's defense, but a lot of smart people liked his defense a lot more than I did. So he certainly could be better on defense than I imagine. But regardless, I think he has really good instincts. He's pretty laterally quick. He's like very long and like strong in the lower body. So I definitely think he could be like a quite good defender if things break right, if the coaching works well. I'm not going to pretend to know how defensive player development operates in the NBA, but I do think there are real tools there and a baseline to work with, which is all you really need for a rookie or rookie plus or whatever he's going to end up being. But I do think I do think a lot of what the Hawks are currently doing, especially because they're paying Trae, they're paying Dejounte, they're kind of screwed by that. They're going to have to pay Onyeka in the next couple years, and they're going to want to pay him what he wants. Um, I think having
Hmm.
these guys on rookie contracts is going to be really important for them. And I think someone like Buffkin and AJ Griffin, but Buffkin in a more like specifically tailored to what you need a Trae offense to do, I think could be really useful.
Yeah, I'm just at this point with Trae Young, I feel like even though this playoff series wasn't as bad as it first seemed, I still feel like it was kind of running into a wall, the same wall that he ran into versus Miami. And with the Team USA, like he got left off Team USA, which they definitely should not have done that.
No.
But with that, I feel like this should be going into this season. It's got to be a wake up call. There's got to be a shift. He's got to move off the ball. Everything else will fall in place if he just plays off the ball offensively and they weaponize his shooting gravity. He's like a 40% career 3-point shooter off the catch.
Two guys talking
I think
about Trae Young playing off the ball in 2023. This is a cry for help. But yes, absolutely. I think
and see, I understand. Because I know some people will be like, yeah, this is like telling Westbrook to play off the like Westbrook cut and play off ball defense. It's like it's not going to happen. I feel like this is my last year going into the year where I'm like it could still happen if he doesn't do it now. I
oh,
might
we're
be
so
like, oh my
naive.
god,
But yeah,
my optimism is out of here.
I think it'll be important to wait and see with full year one of the Quinn Snyder offense. Because as much of a Nate McMillan believer as I am, as a Pacers fan and someone who did a lot of Nate McMillan defending in my day, he is a bad offensive coach. He's always been a bad offensive coach, and he's always been unimaginative about getting the most out of his players. And we see that pretty immediately when he leaves teams. Like I think very notably, like Rick Carlisle has done things with Miles Turner that I was dreaming of Nate McMillan trying. So I'm definitely excited about a full off season with a Quinn Snyder offense and some new toys that are hopefully getting more healthy, getting reps like Buffkin. So there's some hope. I think there's some hope. Again, it's really hard to be a tier 1 contender in this Eastern Conference, and I mean, I'm not making this as an excuse because in the playoffs you have to beat really elite defenses, but it is kind of messed up that Trae got matched up against the 2022 Heat and the 2023 Celtics in terms of swarming giant defenses who prey on small guards as their first round matchups. Like, he could have rolled a different team in the East. And granted, most of the best teams in the East are really good defenses, but I think it's not like he's had it easy, and he needs to be better, and he needs to be able to get through these matchups. But again, like I think he's 25 or 26 still, like very much at the beginning of his physical mental prime. And I don't think he's a player who's gonna really age poorly just because of how great he is in terms of handling and shot making and passing and such. And he obviously, as we went over in this video, can rely on his burst to win, but he doesn't need it. Like it's
Mhm.
not essential like it is for other players.
Like he's not like Fox.
Right,
He's got
right.
other avenues.
Right, like Fox is awesome, but Fox at age 32 is I'm unsure about how that's gonna look. You know, like Fox is fantastic, but
Yeah. So do you think are you hopeful like let's say you're a Hawks fan. Are you hopeful that like Trey building around Trey Young with Trey Young as the guy like if everything works out there's a realistic path to contention or do you think there's got to be another main valve on the team like another star?
I mean, I think you need a better offensive player, or like a better star. I don't know if you need someone who's like star level because I do think Trey is probably towards the bottom level of number one offensive options to win, or number one initiator offensive options that you can win with. Um, it's like and for the people who are like, oh, it's not Trey, Trey can't do it. Like, it's gonna be really hard for them to find a better option. Like
Yeah.
like I think Trey is like it's not ideal and it's gonna be hard, but I think like what are you gonna do? Like are you gonna like put in all your eggs to tank for Cooper Flag? Like that doesn't sound like a strategy.
Maybe.
I mean that's I don't think for a team that's so good and certainly like a team that should be in the playoffs every year with this current roster construction, like doesn't seem realistic to me. So like I don't know what else they would do. And I think Trae can get you there. I think we saw him got close. We saw him get close when things broke right for him. And as we know, as Lakers fans and such will love to tell you, you have to break right to win in the playoffs. You just have to. Every team that wins in the playoffs has some luck go their way. It's just the way it is. And I think that luck combined with how good Trae is, like I think that's your best shot, and I don't really think there's any way around that. Like they've dug themselves into this hole, like on purpose it seems, but like there's not an easy way out, and I think like that's correct. That's the correct way to do it at this point.
Haters forget before that injury versus the Bucks. I don't know how things were gonna
That
go.
that was a
He
that
won one of those games single
that
handedly.
was another really impressive, if a little lower efficiency series from Trae, where he just creates so much great offense that even if the shots don't go in, it's like death by a thousand paper cuts. Like you're gonna lose. But yeah, I think I don't have anything else on Trae, and if you don't have anything else, I guess final thoughts. I I believe. I think this playoffs was definitely a struggle in a way, but not as terrible as some people make it seem. You know.
My final thoughts is I would still die for Trae Young, but I need you to change a little bit. Please, Trae, please. It's there. The
Trey,
path for you is
Trey, I
there.
can
It's
fix.
not like
Trey, I can
it's
fix
not
you.
like yeah, this is not like I don't know who would a better comparison be. Like there's some guys that people think have paths to superstardom, but it's like, oh, this guy's a complete, like if Ben Simmons shoots jumpers, then he's great. It's like that's never gonna
Like
happen.
one of the guys on the other team that just got a big paycheck that we've been watching today.
Oh, I stay quiet about that one. But listen, all the tools are there. He just has to embrace it. It's there. It's there.
Yeah, it
I'm
totally
seeing it.
is. And again, that's the thing. It's like the fact that we know it's there means it's exciting, but it's also going to be disappointing every time it doesn't work because we know it can. So that was really good. Thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you coming on and breaking this down with me. Is there anything you'd like to plug? What do you do? TikToks, any other endeavors that you're doing in the near future?
With Pablo Escoball on TikTok, and then Hot Tunes TV China NBA on YouTube. I'm working on a thing right now where I'm gonna show people how it would look if Trae Young were to play off ball. Because I think a lot of people don't know like what I'm saying when I say that. They're like, "What do you mean? He's one of the best passers in the
Especially on
league."
TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, they're like, "What, you want to take the ball out of his hands? You're gonna kill the man." And
I
I'm like,
saw one of your
"No,
recent
it'll make it easier."
I saw one of your recent videos. I think it was like before I DM'd you, where you did some kind of film breakdown, or like you were like watching something, and like one of the top comments was like, "Come on, bro, actual analysis." I'm like,
Oh yeah, because it was like, yeah, because once the
this is
season
why I'm
ended,
bringing you to
I'm
the
like,
this is why I'm bringing
yeah,
you to the big leagues. Parentheses YouTube.
yeah. Now I'm rubbing shoulders with the draft Twitter giants. It's crazy.
Oh man, yeah, a great fallen
Shout out to
empire that
Brian
a
Schroeder. I would
great
die for Brian
a
Schroeder.
great fallen empire that draft Twitter in the last like 5 years has been because the NBA hires everyone. But yeah, thank you
Brain
again.
drain.
Follow Pablo on TikTok. His stuff is good if you have TikTok, or if not, look out for whatever he has. If you are too Zoomer averse to download TikTok in the year 2023, I would tell you to grow up, but lovingly. So, what is your actual TikTok at? I'm gonna put it in the bio, but
um, Yo soy Pablo Escobar.
yo soy Pablo Escoball. Go hit him with the follow. Go hit him with the follow. Leave me a
Hi everybody.
Would love it if you subbed, liked, commented on the video. If you hated it, you can still comment. That helps the algorithm.
Don't comment anything bad about me, or
And
don't,
subscribe to
please.
my Patreon because I have something cool planned for that soon that the patrons on there already have access to. But yeah, anyways, I think that's enough rambling. Have a good night, everyone.